Hello everyone and welcome back to my opinion, and this is the video on the SAT20 that I said I would be making in my previous video. And going back to what I said in that video, it really has been a great watch so far, and expectedly so. I've been wanting to see a cricketing collaboration between the modern day India and the modern day South Africa. I've at least wanted these two sides to play against each other more often, and that's more so happened when South Africa have toured India and not necessarily the other way around. And I think in terms of the player pools for both these sides, they've probably got the two most extensive and high quality player pools in the cricketing world, in my view, at this point in time. And it's for that reason why I really wanted to see some form of a cricketing collaboration between these two countries, and with this league, we have finally got that. It's been a great watch so far, and I think that the relatability was there previously with six IPL teams in the kind of parent franchises in the end owning the six available franchises in this league. And I think another reason why, in my view, a T20 league in South Africa was going to be an interesting commodity was because of the cricketing intelligence required to play in this part of the world. Watching white ball cricket in South Africa, I've seen that there's a tinge of slowness in pretty much every surface, and in terms of the seamers that I've done well, the seamers that are kind of the hit the deck bowlers that get a slight bit of movement off the deck. Someone like an Ozari Joseph has shown some great signs in this league, and you'd rather play those in this part of the world than the swing bowlers. And we haven't really seen too many swing bowlers at this point in time in this league, but apart from probably one off the top of my head in Marco Jansen. And I think that there has been a difference in impact, especially at the top of the innings, when you're comparing some of the hit the deck bowlers compared to a swing bowler like Marco Jansen. Even when you kind of watch them bowl, I think that as I said, the hit the deck bowlers certainly have seemed to get more purchase in these conditions. And I think that you've seen a lot of leagues before the SAT20 kind of came around saying, right, we're at least the second best league, we'll be looking to try and overtake the IPL. And as an IPL fan, I've always thought that it is nonsense. I think that the IPL is the best for a reason, and I think that in terms of a league that can say that we are at least the second best T20 league in the world, I think we found one in this case. It was always going to have that relatability, and I think the management of behind the scenes processes with these IPL franchises, you kind of you get that the best with these IPL franchises more than any other franchises in kind of this in the T20 leagues fraternity. And I think that with all that sorted out, with the cricketing intelligence required to play in these conditions, I think that certainly in reputation and in terms of the league that I really enjoy watching, even in its inaugural season, I'd have to put it as the second best T20 league in the world. And in terms of the conditions that really stimulate players, especially from a batting front, to really go about getting these good totals in an intelligent way. I actually think that this league, based on the conditions that the players are required to play in, it could even boast as the best T20 league in the world, simply based on the playing conditions. So that's how much I rate this league in its inaugural season. And in terms of how the teams have gone, of course, I support the Joburg Super Kings, and they've played 7 games so far, won 4 and lost 3. And honestly speaking, the batting hasn't been going too well at all on the whole. I think in terms of milestone contributions, they've got 350s and 100. A fabulous century from Faf du Plessis in the previous game to get the win, to help them chase down 179. They got 182 in the end against the Durban Super Giants. And I think that from a batting perspective, of course, they would admit that things haven't gone as well as they would have liked. And considering that they've given away, I think, one or two bonus point wins as well. But considering that you're still in a position where you've won 4, lost 3, albeit with not a good net run rate. The next 3 games are all at home. You've won a recent home game against the Durban Supergiants, and if you can kick on the last 3 games, even if you win 2 more out of those next 3, I think that apart from the team at the top, there is that cluster with especially 4 teams, probably from 2nd to 5th, there is that cluster. And what a win or loss here and there can really change things going down into these last few games. So I think I do back the Joburg Super Kings to qualify for the top 4. And of course, being a fan of the CSK franchise and this franchise, I'd really want them to ultimately win the competition. And I think that with the way that they've constructed this side, it's probably a very pragmatic side, and with the games that they have won, they really have been high quality wins. I think with the games that they've lost, especially at the start where they were losing about 4 or so wickets in the power play, something that with the batting app that they have assembled, I thought that the cricketing intelligence required to go about things in these conditions, I thought with that lineup it was there, which is the reason why I was surprised that things weren't going too well, especially in the first few games. But I think that it's quite a pragmatic side, and you see with the games that they win, especially with 3 of the wins, they really were in the game until the last minute. They were in the game throughout the innings, especially when they've been defending scores, for example. And they really have been high quality wins. So I think this is a pragmatic side, but I think they have got the goods to really deliver an overall good showing in this competition. I'm backing them to qualify for the playoffs, and let's see how things go. From the bowling front, however, we have seen some exciting bowlers there. I think that Gerald Coetzee, I've heard things about him, and I think with the pace that he has been bowling, and it really has been an exciting bowler to watch. 11 wickets in 5 games for him, and he's gone at 7.5 and over. Azari Joseph, ever since this stint with the Gujarat Titans, has been bowling quickly. I mentioned at the start of this video that with the conditions on offer, he really has got something out of these wickets. And the reason why his economy rate is at kind of 8.4 is that, yes, he hasn't, he's got 4 wickets in 7 games, but I really think he's been the guy who they've really looked to be that attacking threat. Yes, he's got 4 wickets in 7 games so far. So in terms of the output, he probably hasn't been as, he hasn't got as many wickets as he would have liked to get, but I still do think that, they wouldn't mind at all still giving him that license, and I think that watching him bowl has really been quite good. Mahesh Deekshant has been back for the last 3 games, and how good was he last game with the start that Kyle Mayers especially got, and 3 for 30 in that previous game. And I think that he's bowled well in Australia in the T20 World Cup. He's bowled well in India recently. He's bowled well in South Africa as well. There were a few cracks in that service in the previous game. They played against DSG, and I think that he made use of those. And the only thing he has to do if and when he gets the opportunity is bowl well in England, and you've got a spinner that does well in pretty much all conditions. I think he really, ever since he's played at CSK, his output has really gone to the next level, man. I think he really has been such a great vein of form, and yeah, I think he really has. This is the best he probably has bowled in his career so far. And yeah, that's on the side. I think that, of course, there have been some other talents that have emerged in general in this SA20 league, and some players that we didn't know about kind of coming to the fore. And I will be mentioning that as we go through this video. So that was on JSK. And yeah, I mean, the Pretoria Capitals, obviously the first place side, winning 5 games out of 7, and that too picking up 3 bonus points. And I think something that I was surprised is that I thought a slam bang opening combination in these conditions, how will it go? And for the first few games, the combination was Phil Salt and Will Jackson. Then I think Phil Salt has been out with illness in the last couple of games, and Gustavo Mendes has played in these two games and has been quite good as well. And Phil Salt averaging 53, striking at 167 and with 2 half centuries. And Will Jacks averaging 38, 3 half centuries and striking at 201. And you've got those two in conditions like these where I think what the Pretoria Capitals have done is that because they've established such an advantage when, with how their openers have gone. I think that if you look at the middle order contributions, yes, Riley Russo surprisingly not had a great tournament. I mean, I wouldn't read too much into it because I still do think that going into this competition, he was still the premier option at number 3 and deservedly so. And I still would play him at number 3 in the South African T20 side. I mean, I still wouldn't. Yes, he hasn't been getting the runs, but I still wouldn't put him in that out of form bracket. There's no reason for him to be out of form in my view with what he's been doing in the last while. And yeah, I mean, I haven't lost any faith in him at all. And even if he doesn't have a good tournament at this point in time, I don't think it changes how he's been going in the last while in international cricket. And yeah, I mean, I think he's a fabulous player. And I think you've got players like Thinis de Bruin who have actually given some decent contributions, 1 half century for him, and along with what the openers have been doing, these kind of few these 1 half century with these 20s, 30s here and there, well, actually quite a lot of those scores. To supplement what the openers have been doing. And I think a really underrated part of their side has actually been Jimmy Neesham. He's not scored a half century, but he's got 3 not out in 6 innings, averaging 41, striking at 136. Him along with Thinis de Bruin have been supplementing the openers. And it means that the middle order performances after the openers have been a bit scrappy. For example, we saw where after what Will Jacks did in the previous game against MI Cape Town, they were, I think, 80 or something without loss after 6 overs, and then they were 100 for 4 and 10, and they somehow scrambled their way to 182. But because of the conditions here, because of especially 3 standout bowlers that they've got in Anrik Nortje, Wayne Parnell and Adil Rashid, and someone like an Ethan Boss and a Senjuran Muthusamy have been good as well. I think that you've got the attack and the conditions to defend this kind of a score. So even 182, despite the fact that on a better, probably a more batting friendly surface, you'd think that, we didn't make use of our start. But really, they took advantage of that first phase and that held them in good stead throughout the innings to finish on 182. And they won by 52 runs in the end. So I think that with the way the openers have been going, the way the bowlers have been going, I think this really has been a great tournament for the Capitals so far. And yeah, even if they win one more game with their net run rate, I think they should qualify for the playoffs. I think a team that has disappointed me overall has to be the Durban Super Giants. They were on 1-2, lost 1, and have lost their last 4 games. And I think, look, I spoke about LSG, their parent franchise. I spoke about their lack of tactical nous, and in the end, I'm not surprised with who they appointed captain for DSG. I'm not surprised that once again there hasn't been tactical nous. I mean, once again, Jason Holder, look, with his bowling, I've said even before, he's not a 4-over bowler in T20s. I think when he bowls, he's a good option on a slow surface, but I think that kind of if you're playing in you saw a game in Sharjah, for example, in IPO 2020 where he was quite good. I think in that kind of a service he'd be good, but a lot of the time when he bowls in T20s, it seems like he doesn't really bowl with a plan. Even when he got 4 wickets in 4 ball, the performance that I've referred to before, it was kind of a bit of a jammy outcome, really. I think that it doesn't seem like he has a plan when he bowls in this format, which I think we have seen in this tournament when he has bowled. Unfortunately, an option or a facet of his game that he can give something in is his batting. But unfortunately, like what happened with LSG, he's been batting at 7 certain times, and he hasn't really had the opportunities to actually come good with the bat. And I understand with the ball, like I've not been a huge fan of his bowling in T20s, but with the bat, he can bat at the top 6, and if you give him that number 6 slot, then he can execute. And I don't know why. At a certain times they've been batting Chemo Pool. In fact, quite a few times they've been batting Chemo Pool ahead of Jason Holder, which I just don't understand at all. And if you think, and in the end, I don't even understand why they're playing Chemo Pool anyway, because you'd think that what would you expect him to maybe bowl a few cutters in these services, for example, since you wouldn't use him for his batting at this point in time, especially at number 6, which they've tried to use him in that role. But he's bowled 2 overs in 5 games, so I just don't understand that at all. If he's not bowling much, he can't bat in the top 6. Why are you playing him? I just don't understand. And Jason Holder at times hasn't been bowled. It's only been bowled the first over and the 18th over. Hasn't gone too well when he has bowled those overs. It's been a hodgepodge of a usage of him, really. Quinton de Kock experimenting with his batting position. He once recently batted at number 5, and I think he got out for a golden duck as well. So luckily in the previous game he did go out to bat, opening the batting, and he's been good in the first few games in this competition. And when he has been opening, I think he scored a half century when he batted at 3. But I think there is a balance between, of course, trying to find a different role for yourself, but also kind of prioritizing your strengths and prioritizing the team. And I don't think that's happened with him and with the usage of other players, like I just mentioned. So I think on a captaincy perspective, I'm quite surprised they've made Quinton de Kock captain. Well, I'm not surprised in terms of I'm not surprised that they made that kind of a decision. I mean, I did expect it, but in my view, I would have actually gone with Keshav Maharaj as captain. One thing that they have in this case is that they've got a more obvious captaincy candidate in this case than someone like an LSG do, who I think they need a leadership change as well, but there's not an obvious candidate for them like they do have in this case. I would have put Keshav Maharaj as captain. And yeah, I mean, you've got in the seam bowling department, you've got Reece Topley, and then you've got some all-rounders who, you're just trying to piece things together at that point in time. And you've got Kyle Mayers, who's bowled 10 overs on and off, but he's actually 2 for 44 and 10 overs and giving some decent impact at times with up top opening the batting. You would take that. Still a middling contribution, but you still would take that. A middling contribution with the bat, but you still would take that. But apart from if you look at after Reece Topley, the rest of the seam bowling contingent all are going at above 10 over and have bowled in some cases 15 overs, 17 overs and 12.1 overs in the competition so far. So it really has been a muddle, and I think I've criticized LSG for their tactical nous, lack of tactical nous, and I'm not surprised with the way that in the end it's the same parent franchise that's owning this franchise. And if once again, the same things have happened. So, yeah, I mean, DSG has been a disappointment, but I'm not really surprised considering what we have seen characteristically with the parent franchise. You've got the other franchises in Par Royals. I thought I'm still not too convinced by their bowling, I'll be honest. They've got Fortuyn, who I think as a power play bowler in these conditions has been outstanding. And you've got Tabraiz Shamsi as well. Ngiri's been good at times, but generally I'm not. Their seam bowling hasn't really convinced me that much, I've got to say. But I think that in the batting front, I'll be honest. There are certain signings, for example, Jason Roy, which I kind of thought, I don't know why they made. I think if you're comparing him with players like Joss Butler, who's averaged 40 even in these conditions, which is superb. Johnny Bairstow, who isn't playing this competition, for example. Players who have the ability to transcend a surface. Now, would you put Jason Roy in that bracket where you're batting in the toughest surface in this competition to bat on, which is the Powell surface? And he hasn't had a great tournament at all, really, unexpectedly so. I wouldn't say he has the adaptability that the other players that I mentioned do, and I'm not surprised that he hasn't had a great tournament. And I don't know why they've really picked him, considering where they would be playing 5 of their games. And they're not playing any more games in Pau now, but I just think that, I was confused why they did pick him. I think SEC, I still think that, Sunrise Eastern Cape, I still think that they mostly do rely on 2 players in Aiden Markram and Sisanda Magala. I think with how well Sisanda Magala has played this tournament, I really think that if you've got all these kind of discoveries from and players who have been going well in domestic cricket and to be playing, obviously you'd want to play in the international side as well. If you're making a full strength South Africa 11, you could even, if you're playing 3 seamers right now, I think Magala's bowling that well that you could even leave Rabada out and have a very good side. And yeah, I mean, that it just shows how much of a luxury they have with this player pool, like I did mention at the start of the video. And yeah, I think there was rumours of Dior Brevis being fast-tracked to the international T20 side, which I think he should be, and Sisanda Magala being picked for the ODI squad to face England in a couple of days' time. I think that, yeah, I think this tournament will benefit SA cricket massively. And on the last franchise, of course, MI Cape Town, not been as immortal as you thought they would be. I think with the bowling, yes, Jofra Archer is bowling again, which is good, but I'll be honest, with his injury situation, I don't know how long that will continue, but of course I wish that it does continue for a long time, but in terms of him being available to play cricket. I think with their overseas bowlers more so being in to kind of on the bowling front, apart from Odean Smith, who you could kind of put in both brackets, but mostly they have been using him more in the bowling front. I think while you still got players like Dior Brevis, Ryan Rickleton, Rolofsson, and Rati van Didison there, I think that they've not been as an immortal of a side as they seemed like they would be from the auctions, and let's see how they will go. I think there's a cluster from 2nd to 5th in terms of qualifying by getting a hold of these last 3 slots, and yeah, let's see how they go from here. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Be sure to share it with your friends. Remember, this is my opinion. What's yours?